This week at the Supreme Court. We begin with an update on the petition seeking to stop former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte's arrest and transfer to the International Criminal Court, or ICC, in The Hague. The Supreme Court, by a majority vote, found that petitioners Duterte and Senator Ronald Dela Rosa failed to establish a clear and unmistakable right for the immediate issuance of a temporary restraining order, or TRO. Duterte and Dela Rosa filed a petition on Tuesday, March 11, against Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin and other government officials, challenging the detention of the former president in compliance with the warrant of arrest issued by the ICC. The SCS directed the respondents to comment on the petition for certiorari in prohibition, with prayer for TRO and a writ of preliminary injunction within 10 days from notice. On Wednesday, March 12, the Supreme Court received 3 separate writ of habeas corpus petitions, filed by Sebastian Z. Duterte, Veronica A. Duterte, and Paolo Z. Duterte, seeking the release of their father, former President Duterte. On March 13, the Court en banc unanimously resolved to consolidate the petitions for habeas corpus filed against Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin and other government officials. The Court directed respondents to show cause within 24 hours from receipt of notice why the writ of habeas corpus should not be issued. The Court en banc has approved the rules on electronic notarization, or the E-notarization rules, which leverages technology to make notarial services more accessible and efficient. E-notarization supplements the traditional mode of notarization under the 2004 Rules on Notarial Practice. While printed documents continue to be governed by the 2004 rules, the e-notarization rules will govern notarization of electronic documents, which could either be done in person or remotely. Aside from the e-notarization rules, the SC also approved the guidelines on accreditation of electronic notarization facility providers under AM number 24-10-14-SC. These rules introduce electronic notaries public who are authorized to perform notarial acts for individuals located anywhere in the Philippines and, in certain cases, even abroad. The e-notarization rules takes effect 15 days after its publication on March 9, 2025. The SCS also ruled that failing to conduct a proper and thorough investigation in cases of enforced or involuntary disappearance violates or threatens a person's right to life, liberty, and security. Investigations must be serious and effective, not just a mere formality. In a decision written by Associate Justice Japar B. de Maampao, the SC en banc granted the privilege of a writ of amparo to the family of Henry V. Tayo Jr., who went missing after being detained at Bacolod City Police Station 8 for theft. The SC declared the police responsible and accountable for Tayo's enforced disappearance and ordered them to produce all relevant documents and materials connected to the case. The case was remanded to the Regional Trial Court for implementation of the SC's orders. In another decision, the SC has emphasized that sheriffs, when serving the court's writs and processes and implementing its orders, must perform their duties with the utmost care and diligence, as any mistake affects the administration of justice. In a ponencia by Senior Associate Justice Marvic MVF Leonen, the SC en banc dismissed Vicente S. Sicat Jr. for repeatedly failing to properly perform his duties as sheriff in the office of the Clerk of Court of the Regional Trial Court, Angeles City, Pampanga. The SC stressed that sheriffs must strictly adhere to procedural rules to ensure the proper enforcement of court orders, and that any deviation from these procedures can undermine the administration of justice and warrants disciplinary action. In another case, the SCS modified the penalty for an accused charged with slight physical injuries and unjust fixation from imprisonment of 30 days to community service. It applied the Community Service Act, which seeks to improve public work participation and promote public service in line with the state's policy to promote restorative justice and decongest jails. In a resolution written by Associate Justice Amici Lazaro-Javier, the SC Second Division granted the motion of an accused convicted by the SC for slight physical injuries and unjust fixation. Instead of the 30-day total imprisonment for slight physical injuries and unjust fixation, 5,000 pesos in moral damages, and a 200 peso fine imposed by the Metropolitan Trial Court, the SC applied the Community Service Act in this case, even though the accused was convicted prior to its effectivity on August 8, 2019. The SC reiterated that penal laws are applied retroactively when favorable to the accused unless they are habitual criminals. Meanwhile, on March 10, Chief Justice Alexander G. Esmundo administered the oath of office to PNP Brigadier General Manuel R. Garlan as the first Chief Marshal of the newly established Office of the Judiciary Marshals, or OJM. Chief Marshal Garlan will head the OJM and lead efforts to ensure the security of judges, court personnel, and judiciary properties across the country. The OJM was established under Republic Act No. 11691, or the Judiciary Marshals Act, to address increasing threats against members of the judiciary. The court, led by Senior Associate Justice Leonen and Associate Justice Lazaro-Javier, also held an information dissemination campaign on eCourtPH 2.0, particularly on electronic filing or e-filing for the 6th Judicial Region in Iloilo City on March 11 and in Bacolod City on March 13. The program included an orientation on e-filing, a lecture on Rule 13-A, or the interim rule on the electronic filing and service of pleadings, judgments, and other papers in civil cases, and a presentation on the e-library. Saj Leonen and Justice Lazaro-Javier also conducted a court visit to the Hall of Justice of Bacolod City on March 13. On the same day, Associate Justices Rodil V. Zalameda and Jose Maidas P. Marquez led the inauguration and blessing of the new Hall of Justice of RTC Bacoor in Cavite. They also held a dialogue on eCourtPH 2.0 with judges and court personnel of Judicial Region 4A. Finally, the Office of the 2025 Bar Examinations Chairperson, Associate Justice Lazaro-Javier, has reminded prospective examinees that the application for the 2025 bar exams will end on Monday, March 17 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's your Supreme Court this week. I am Tifat Indidoblatran, Supreme Court Information Officer.